So good evening, buonasera, welcome everybody to the Embassy of Italy. I'm very glad to see such a good audience tonight. And I hope you will enjoy this event about the 150th anniversary since Florence became the capital of the young Kingdom of Italy. Would remain the capital for 6 years until Rome was annexed to Italy. But I don't want to anticipate anything about what our cultural attaché first, and then Professor Starita will tell you about. And instead, to break the ice, we will start with a very short video about the city of Florence and the Uffizi Gallery. Please.
So let me start with a bit of background to clarify why it became the capital. So the Grand Duchy of Tuscany, which had existed since the Renaissance, was one of the 7 Italian states that was recreated after the expulsion, the end of the Napoleonic period. So in 1815, the Habsburg Grand Dukes come back, Ferdinand III and then Leopold II, his son, and they are close allies to Austria, which is one of the great conservative powers of Europe at that time. Among rulers of the Restoration period, the Tuscan Habsburgs are probably among the nicest, but they're still obviously opposed to the kind of rising patriotic nationalist movement that you have in Italy in that period. In 1848, during the revolts of 1848, Leopold II briefly granted a constitution and actually opened the ghetto of Florence, which had been a restricted area for the Jewish community of Florence since the 1500s. But when the revolutions of 1848 failed, Austrian troops restored Leopold's rule, the constitution was withdrawn, and Austrian troops in fact stayed in Tuscany until 1855. 4 years later, in 1859, there was the Second War of Independence, where this time the Kingdom of Sardinia and Piedmont is assisted by France, defeats Austria, and in a fairly quick wave of conquest, most of central and southern Italy is brought together into the new Kingdom of Italy. And so you have here just a quick map to sort of familiarize with where we are. Those are the various states after 1815, and Tuscany, of course, is number 6. And then you have the creation of the kingdom between 1859 and 61 on the right, leaving out Venice, which will be taken in 1866, and Rome and its area, which remains under papal rule. So what was the issue there? Italy, obviously, the Italian elites, the Italian nationalistic leadership obviously wanted to include Rome into the new kingdom, but they didn't have the military strength and the political strength to do that at that time, mostly because the French Empire, at this point we have Napoleon III in France, was very keen on protecting papal rule, at least on the city of Rome and its area. And there were French troops in Rome, and Italy was not in a position to wage a war against France. So in 1864, they negotiate an agreement. Italy is obviously kind of chomping at the bit to try to get Rome as part of the new kingdom. But in 1864, they agreed with the French to an agreement by which French troops would largely leave Rome, most of them, and Italy pledges to respect the power of the Pope over Rome and its area. So Italy is committing itself to respect the situation as you see in that map on the right. As a sign of its commitment, they decide to move the capital. Because everybody agreed, particularly in the kind of mentality of the 19th century, that Turin was simply too far away. It was too off-center for the new country. It had worked as the capital, of course, of the old kingdom, but once the most of the peninsula is together, Turin is simply too away from the center of the country. And so Florence, in a sense, by default, becomes the way in which Italy shows its commitment.
So why we are doing just a concert tonight? Because we really would like just to recreate the atmosphere of that moment. So the program, we have a Mozart sonata in C minor, and Beethoven sonata in C minor, and Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody, because that were the music at that time